Good afternoon and welcome to our Chartered Management Degree Apprenticeship information session. So welcome to everybody this afternoon who are joining us. Yeah, we've had a lot of people and organisations sort of join us over in the past and who are sort of interested in this apprenticeship journey, and that's great to see. We've sort of had quite a few sort of graduates sort of coming through now, and I'm sure our colleagues will sort of touch on that as we go through the event itself there. So joining me today will be Dr. Alex Alterskye, and I'll just bring him onto the screen just for him to say hello and introduce himself.
Hi there everyone, I'm Alex Alterskye. I'm the Programme Leader of the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship.
Fantastic, thank you, Alex. And we did actually have scheduled one of our apprentices actually to be here today and give us their insight. And unfortunately, due to an emergency, they've had to be sort of taken away from a work perspective. But that's what happened. So, but between myself and Alex, we'll certainly sort of provide you with all the information that you need to be able to make an informed decision about the degree apprenticeships there. So thank you very much, Alex. So feel free to pop your questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll be able to sort of pick those up. And if we don't sort of answer them as we go along, we'll certainly be able to sort of answer them at the end, where we sort of have an opportunity to sort of pick up sort of questions and answers there. And just so you know, we're sort of streaming across YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn there. So you know, welcome to our guests who are joining us on that front there. Right, I'm going to share my screen now, and we're just going to go through our presentation. And yeah, so why are you here, basically, is the first question. Yeah, there's lots of reasons as to why people look to study, you know, and it could be largely down to people wanting to step up in the career ladder, you know, finding out what's next in their sort of career journey. So if that's you, you know, absolutely, you're welcome in that sense to sort of learn more about this opportunity here. This is also an opportunity for employers to understand what a degree apprenticeship is about. Those particularly looking to sort of develop staff and bridge the sort of knowledge gap and be able to sort of increase retention rates and upskill their employees there. So a great opportunity in that sense for people to come along and listen to us there from all walks of life, really. So in terms of what we're going to sort of cover today, talk specifically around the Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship and the BA Honours, which basically underpins the apprenticeship there. We'll also cover off eligibility and the next steps. And like I said, there's opportunities for us, for you to sort of ask questions and email us for any sort of further information as well. So what is an apprenticeship? So basically, the myth around sort of apprenticeships is that it's a beginning of career and it's something you sort of get into a trade, you know, of sorts there. And whilst this may be the case, you know, in some instances, it is very much an educational program, you know, with a mix of on and off the job learning there. And it is aimed at a broad spectrum of people sort of in leadership and management positions. And even the university itself, you know, we've sort of very much committed to apprenticeships, and we demonstrated this by actually putting our own staff through apprenticeships themselves there, and we're having great sort of success with that, and we sort of had several cohorts of sort of people running through that there. So the university shows its commitment by sort of engaging its own staff in that sense and developing them. So it's not just about the numbers, and it is about sort of operating in a slightly different way as an individual. You know, as much as it is beneficial for the employer to get their employees onto a degree apprenticeship and upskill them and sort of provide benefits to the organization. Also great for the individual. As an individual, you start sort of thinking in different ways, thinking more strategically, be able to sort of have critical thinking sort of, attached to many of your skills, analysis, as well as really sort of developing the more soft side of your leadership as well, in terms of your leadership style there. So the key areas around sort of knowledge, skills, behaviors are great for both sort of individuals and employers there as well. So, and here's an example of some of our sort of success scenarios as well. So many of our apprentices have gone on to sort of, use it as a springboard for sort of promotions, to take on bigger projects, etc. And here's some examples of that, where we've had a local deputy CEO who was recruited to a role of a national CEO charity, which is based down in London there. We had an apprentice who was sort of a branch manager promoted to commercial manager of an organization. We've had individuals take on work-based projects based on communication, which led to sort of large savings across a number of sort of branches there as well. And of course, endpoint assessment work focused on sort of reviewing stakeholder involvement and feedback, and this ended in positive outcomes for all of their stakeholders. So demonstrates that the degree apprenticeship is, it's not just a qualification for the individual. It really does have an impact on the organization as well, and it does sort of bring out sort of commercial value as much as it is in terms of individual development as well there. So in terms of the actual degree apprenticeship itself, there are different sort of 4 stages to it really, and the first one is enrollment, and this is trying to identify really the right people who have the gaps in which the CMDA can develop and benefit ultimately. And in this sort of enrollment period, it is ensuring that, and particularly as employers, that they're also sort of identifying and approving the right people. It's really important. I will touch on this a little bit as we sort of go along a bit further down the line there. And once you have been recruited and you've gone through the process, you'll be sort of coming through to a welcome session and an induction session led by the team. And of course, there's a couple of sort of key functional skills that are required to help enable you to complete the degree apprenticeship around sort of maths and English as well, which I'll touch on a little bit later on. Now, the bulk of what you'll be doing in terms of that sort of large 3-year period is going to be around sort of the learning element there. And when you're sort of going through the degree apprenticeship, you will sort of be having regular visits with your assessor. You'll have sort of face-to-face and maybe remote sort of teaching available. Obviously, last year, whilst we've been in the pandemic, it's all been sort of remote. But now we're sort of coming back onto campus, there'll be opportunities to sort of have the face-to-face teaching as well. And part of this sort of period is that a large component is the 20% off the job. And that's key for you to be able to sort of make sure you've been given the time to be able to sort of study and develop yourself in the right sort of context of working off the apprenticeship there. And of course, you've got your sort of monthly reviews as well embedded in there. One of the other key things is a quarterly review, which you'll have with the with your portfolio support tutor and with your work-based mentor, as well as your actual provider as well. So those are quite key in terms of your developments there. Then you go on to sort of the gateway, and this is where really your assessor and your managers decides that, whether you're sort of ready to go through to your endpoint assessment there. And hopefully you've got everything in order. Your house is in order in that sense. Your portfolio is up to date. You've got all your evidence, and then you'll be sort of moving on to endpoint assessment, which you'll be then submitting, and that could be a variety of sort of assessments, and that could also mean including interviews and discussions around that point as well as part of the assessment there. So, All right, so this is our, in terms of what underpins the actual degree apprenticeship is our BA Honours degree in professional practice and leadership management there. This is quite a key one, really. So part of this is, not only do you get your degree apprenticeship, but you're also studying for your degree, your BA Honours. And one of a strong, benefit of this is also that employees and apprentices gain a level 5, a CMI level 5 qualification there. So it's a bit of a triple whammy in terms of benefits there. So it's fantastic to be able to walk away with those 3 qualifications there. The degree apprenticeship itself will last 36 months, plus a little bit more for your EPA, for you to be able to go through that sort of process there. It is known as a level 6 degree apprenticeship. So, and the level 6, attains to the level of study that you're at, which is that degree level there, and of course delivered through the Lincoln International Business School there. So at this point, I'm going to bring back Alex, and he'll be able to talk you through the actual program itself. And welcome, Alex. And I'm just going to disappear for a few moments, and I'll be back to carry on thereafter. I'll leave you to it, Alex.
Thanks, Tars. Yeah, so as Tars has mentioned, this is a Chartered Manager Degree Apprenticeship, and within that, it's actually you're following what's called an apprenticeship standard, which are a number of areas of knowledge, skills, and behaviour that you need to show evidence of that you're learning about and that you are actually implementing in the workplace over the time that you're on the apprenticeship. So those knowledge, skills, and behaviours areas, there's actually 11 different areas. And as you can see, what we've got here is we've got a degree that underpins the degree apprenticeship, the BA Honours in Professional Practice and Leadership and Management. And what we actually have here is we actually have 11 different modules on the degree. So we've got the 4 modules on the first year along the top line, the 4 modules on the second year in the middle, and then the 3 modules in the third year at the bottom. And this degree has been written specifically to match the CMDA apprenticeship standard, so that every module that you're studying, and you're studying academic modules, but we've written it from a work-based perspective, so that actually when you're studying that module, you're being asked to look into what's going on in your workplace. You're critically analysing what's happening in your workplace. You are applying some of the skills that you've learned in the module in the workplace. You're reflecting upon how that's gone. So each module has an assessment, which is a portfolio-based assessment, which if you follow that assessment and do everything that's asked of you, you are automatically gathering the evidence that you need to show to put into your overarching portfolio to show that you've achieved the degree apprenticeship. So this is a really innovative approach, because our degree has been written specifically for to hit the degree apprenticeship standard. So an example, if we take, for instance, the second module, Managing Developing People, a module, it lasts normally 10 weeks. Within those 10 weeks, in the first week, there will be a day of face-to-face teaching at the university, of course, pandemic allowing. And then for the rest of those, for the next 9 weeks, there are weekly webinars. So it's flexible in that way. So you are getting the face-to-face teaching at the beginning, a good overview of the module. You get to meet your tutor, you get to meet your classmates, colleagues, etc., etc. But also then you've got these webinars that are happening on a weekly basis like that. So it's flexible around your workplace, around the tasks that you're doing in the workplace. So those webinars are there to with some teaching in them, but also guidance of what you need to do for the assessments and what you need to do to gather your portfolio evidence. You also, so basically, sorry, at the end of those 10 weeks, in the 11th week, you'll hand in your portfolio assessment for that particular module. And then there's a week in between, and then on the 12th week you'll start on the next module again, and it kind of works like that. So that you're not doing 2 modules at once, you're doing one, hand in, next, hand in, like that. So that work that you've handed in is marked academically, and you're going to be getting a mark out of 100 like any other degree. And eventually at the end, when you've completed all 3 years, you will get a degree classification, be it first, a 2-1, a 2-2, etc., etc. But also what happens to that work at the end of that hand-in is it is reviewed by you, your employer, and a colleague from the university called a portfolio support tutor. That portfolio support tutor is someone who's with you all the way through the degree apprenticeship, that helps you with your portfolio building, helps you understand what types of work-based projects you can be doing to help build your portfolio, helps you reflect upon what you've been doing in the workplace to ensure that you're able to show evidence that you've developed your knowledge, skills and behaviours in that area. So after each module, a review happens called a quarterly review. And in that quarterly review, your evidence from the last module is looked at, and it's mapped against the degree apprenticeship standard, and it's ticked off in your portfolio if it's there, or if it's not, there's an action plan there. So this carries on module to module. You've got 4 in the first year, 4 in the second, and 3 in the third. If you can see, that final module in the third year is a double module. It's larger. So with this module, this is your end work-based project, which is like the culmination of your degree and your degree apprenticeship. So it says negotiated work-based project because this is something that you discuss with your employers. It's something that's going to be of value in the workplace that you're actually going to be working on and delivering, and then writing up for your degree and for your degree apprenticeship. So with your work-based projects, and they can be on all sorts of things. I've seen ones, marketing-based projects, looking at a product portfolio and looking at refreshing it and marketing it, looking at recruitment processes, looking at implementing a new recruitment process for a department, looking at agile working processes. There's lots of different, and that you can take that flavour to be something that you're interested in and something that's going to be really useful and deliverable in the workplace. So you produce a work-based project report for the university, you produce a presentation and a business case, but also at the end of the degree apprenticeship, you have something called endpoint assessment, we sometimes refer to as EPA. At endpoint assessment, you are assessed by our endpoint assessment organisation, which is the Chartered Management Institute, the CMI. And the CMI will look at your portfolio to check that you've got evidence of the knowledge, skills and behaviours. But they'll also ask for you to do a presentation on a work-based project. They'll ask for a work-based project report, and they'll do a competency-based interview on your portfolio. And the beauty, again, of this degree is we've written that module and written the degree so that in writing the stuff that's needed for your degree, you're also doing the work that's needed for endpoint assessment as well. So you're doing both things at once. Now, Tars also mentioned that the Chartered Management Institute Level 5 qualification is wrapped into this, and that is the case, and that is assessed at the same time as your actual degree. So in effect, you are getting 3 things at once here, which is the degree apprenticeship. By the way, the degree apprenticeship, you can achieve a distinction, merit or pass on that one, and the CMI level 5. In fact, you'll achieve 4 things. If you keep a CPD log across the time, you'll become a chartered manager with the CMI as well. Thanks very much. Can I have the next slide, please? So I've probably jumped ahead of myself slightly here, and I've explained some of this already. So just to reiterate, the 10-week module, apart from the final one, the day of face-to-face teaching at the beginning of each module, and we have a day of face-to-face induction as well as that. And then we have the weekly online teaching. So we use our online software Collaborate for that, which is an excellent educational webinar-based platform. We do ask that you try to be at the webinars live because you've got your tutor there, you've got your classmates there, but they are recorded. So say if something came up in the workplace, like what's just happened with our apprentice that was going to join us today, at the last minute and you can't make the webinar, it is recorded and you can catch up with that recording, because we know that as level 6 managers, you're going to need that flexibility. And we have loads of resources. We have we have our virtual learning environment, Blackboard, and we have a really close relationship with the Chartered Management Institute, and we use their Management Direct platform, which has loads of resources, has mentoring opportunities, has extra sessions and seminars there. You get access to LinkedIn Learning, so that's a huge portfolio of online learning packages that you get access to. We assume that you've not done a degree before, although some of you may have, potentially in a different area. So we take you through study skills, research methods, all of those things. In effect, although this is a degree apprenticeship, you are a fully fledged student of the university, with all of the benefits that gives you as well. Even if you're only coming onto campus for the face-to-face teaching, sort of one day a module, of course, you're welcome to come on the campus, use the learning spaces, the library, the computer labs, use the students' union and all of those things as well. You get all of those benefits as any other student would. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, so I think I've touched upon this, but basically we have a portfolio approach to assessment. So what that means is that you're building an overarching portfolio as part of the apprenticeship, where you're putting into that portfolio your evidence that you've built your knowledge, skills and behaviours in all the different areas of management. So for instance, if I took managing developing people, you have to show evidence that you have delegated, for instance, delegated tasks to a team of people. So you might put in meeting minutes there. Potentially you might put in a presentation that you've done to colleagues. You might put in a 360-degree feedback from a colleague. So that all goes into this portfolio, and we use an electronic portfolio software solution, but you're putting these bits of evidence in there, and you're building this portfolio over the whole time of the apprenticeship. But you're also, each module has its own what's called portfolio assessment. So you're basically putting together some different areas. So for instance, a discussion and critical analysis about the best ways to delegate, for instance, and then you're putting into that, you're reflecting upon a time where you have delegated, for instance, and how it went and how successful it was. And so you've got separate portfolios for each module, and then a total portfolio that you're building for the whole apprenticeship. The apprenticeship needs, you need to be developing your knowledge, skills and behaviours. So you are going to be engaging with theory and theoretical issues and sort of models around what is the best sort of management practices at this time. But actually, because this is work-based learning, actually, it's not just about theory. It's not just writing about what could happen. You're then actually reflecting and talking about your practice and giving evidence of what did happen and what went well and what you could do differently. And actually, it's really important. And our ethos is that this is work-based learning, and that actually it's not enough to just look and read up about something, but it's to read up about something, to implement it, to see how it went, to reflect upon it, to see how you might do it differently, then to maybe do it differently again, and to test it, to test all these things. So that's our sort of approach to assessment, that work-based focus. So I think that if you're the type of person who, you like learning by doing, learning in the workplace, but you also want to get stuck into sort of like all the sort of theory and the higher level, then this is a good mixture of both of those. Can I have the next slide, please? So we've got the obligatory picture of students throwing their hats in the air, and this will be you. So obviously you're doing a degree at the same time, and you are, you're a student like any other, and so you will graduate, and you'll go. Normally our graduations are at the cathedral in Lincoln, and it's such a sort of beautiful occasion, and you can celebrate and throw your hats in the air and get your degrees, like any other student. It's a fantastic day. The other thing is that we have very good success rates already. The course has been running for a number of years, and you know, at the moment, all of the apprentices that have finished the course, that have completed, have all passed. We've had no fails, and they've all, in the majority of them, have got distinction and merits as well. So we're really proud of that, and we're sure we can keep that going. Thanks. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. That was great. Much appreciated. It's a great insight into how apprenticeships works, basically. So I'm just going to put across at the bottom our email address. So if obviously you're looking for further information, need to get in touch with us about anything, please drop us a line and we'll sort of respond back to you. Equally, you know, if you've got any questions right now, drop them in the comments in the chat, and we'll sort of pick those up as well. So I'm just going to sort of touch on sort of the apprenticeship delivery a little bit here in terms of the off the job and on the job there. And off the job is 20%, and that is 20% of your work time. So if you're working 5 days a week, that's equivalent to 1 day there, which you are sort of given. It's part of the commitment from the employer to enable you to study and do all things that are related to your degree apprenticeship in terms of learning there. There's also obviously the other 80% in that sense where the skills, the knowledge, skills and behaviours that you're sort of learning throughout the degree apprenticeship being applied whilst you're actually working in your everyday sort of role. And so, you know, you're being sort of put into positions, being stretched, hopefully sort of using those sort of newfound skills there. Yep. So I'm just going to sort of talk about the 20% a little bit more in terms of how this is achieved. And Alex sort of mentioned that, you know, you will attend the beginning of each module 1 day on campus, and that can be considered as part of your 20%. Also, sort of regular contact with your tutor, whether that's face-to-face or sort of remote, is also considered as part of that sort of 20% off the job as well. Again, Alex mentioned the regular webinars, self-study, reflective study as well. So all of those sort of things are part of the 20% there. And here's a bit more of a list really in terms of what this could also look like. So without sort of going through every single one, sort of key things could be, you know, you could be shadowing or, you know, being mentored by an experienced member of staff within your organization. You could sort of use that as part of your learning and consider that as part of the 20%. You know, you could be attending sort of conferences or sort of research sort of forums as such on a regular basis. Yeah, you could be doing sort of talk sessions, lectures, webinars and workshops, etc. Any sort of other sort of learning support provided by the employer or us as a provider, as a university, you know, so that you could sort of include as part of that sort of 1 day worth of sort of learning there in that 20% there. And actually also includes writing up your assignments and assessments as well. So, you know, you can use that time a bit more flexibly in that sense. So in terms of the requirements for the CMDA, this is a tripart agreement, and it includes, you know, the apprentice, which is, you know, the employee, the employer themselves, and the provider, which is us, the university. So between us, we commit to, you know, a certain level of support in terms of what we need to do to be able to sort of progress the apprentice through the degree apprenticeship. From an apprentice perspective, you know, it's absolutely essential in terms of attendance and study time is maintained by them, and they commit to that. From an employer, you know, the commitment to obviously paying minimum wage and giving the time to study, giving the time off to study for their employees in the working week is essential. And of course, the support and guidance from us, from the academics to the apprentice, is our part and our commitment in that sense there as well. You will have individual sort of learner records there, which you'll be able to record, as Alex was mentioning, in terms of the evidence as part of your sort of portfolio there. And a work-based mentor will be allocated to you to help you through this period as well. And that work-based mentor, it could be your line manager, or it could be somebody who's sort of closely connected to your role and your task at work there. And they would be part of that sort of quarterly meeting which you hold with your portfolio support tutor, as well as the actual apprentice themselves there. And then university will support you right the way up through to your EPA. The EPA will ultimately be the responsibility of the employer, but you'll get all the support necessary to take you through to that. In terms of the eligibility process, so the entry requirement here is that you need to be in a relevant work role. I mentioned sort of maths and English previously. This is at level 2 GCSE or equivalent. You do need to have this preferably before you start the degree apprenticeship. Be in a leadership role and be employed for at least 30 hours a week there. And now if you are working part-time, don't worry, because we can sort of work that out and do a sort of pro rata of that to ensure that you can still be part of the still take part in the degree apprenticeship there. In terms of the application process, of course, this is where you, as the apprentice, have to sort of complete a statement of intent as to why you want to do this and how it will benefit you. There's also the skill scan to actually conduct as well with your line manager, your work-based mentor there. And this is not quite, but this is important in the sense that we need to understand what those gaps are, and those gaps are essential in order to be able to sort of make sure that this is the correct thing for you in terms of the degree apprenticeship there. So if we know that there's sufficient gaps in terms of that, we can enable and support you in terms of your knowledge, skills, and behaviours, then this is definitely the right thing. As you sort of go through that, you'll come to a stage where Alex and his colleague will interview you to again part of that assessment in terms of making sure that you are doing the right thing, and you have sufficient sort of gaps there to be able to complete the CMDA there. And of course, the ultimate sort of decision lies with the employer. So the employer's got to be able to approve the fact that you going on to the degree apprenticeship there. So as it is a degree apprenticeship which is ultimately funded through the employer levy there. So it is up to them in terms of their responsibility really. So so that's the application process there. And obviously, as I say, suitability is absolutely key here as well. So what's next? We're basically, our next cohort is starting in the 7th of March next year, but applications need to be with us by the 10th of December of this year, and interviews will start throughout sort of January, February, throughout that period there. Contact us on our email if you need any more information, or if you've got any questions on cmda@lincoln.ac.uk. But of course, think about this initially, have a chat with your employer and your colleagues, and please ask the questions, and then we're happy to sort of guide you in that sense there. So I think we sort of come to the end, Alex. I'm just going to check if we've got any questions at all in the chat. But yeah, it looks like obviously there's no sort of questions at this current moment in time. Alex, I don't know if there's anything you want to sort of end on with it regards to the degree apprenticeship.
Well, I mean, I just urge you to get in touch if you need any further information. We'd be happy to chat on a one-to-one if that's required, and give you any further information there. Yeah, please get in touch and let us give you all the information you need. Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today, and yeah, please contact us on the email below. And yeah, thank you very much for your time, and we'll no doubt speak soon. Thank you.
Thanks.